In recovery, we call it enabling. Whenever you've got a child or a family member that it has an addiction, if we don't hold them accountable, if we don't have a family conference, if we don't do something to say, listen, we love you too much to allow you to continue to destroy your life. We need to have a meeting here. We need to have an intervention. You need to get help, whatever it takes. Otherwise, if we don't do that, then what are we doing? We're enabling. You're not my friend. You are not my friend if you don't tell me the truth. You're not my friend. You're not doing anybody any favors by enabling their dysfunctional, irrational way of living and behavior. Let me give you a keen insight into Genesis. Because if you've read the first 15, 16 chapters like me, and then you go on into Lot and Abraham's story, it bothered me. It still bothers me. Even though I think I somewhat understand it, it still bothers me. Why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? I mean, you think, well, it was sinful. But you step back and you think, well, wait a minute. My goodness. Ever since Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, everybody's been sinful, right? We've all made mistakes. So is it because they were sinful? Is that why God's anger burned against them and he felt like he finally had to destroy them? No. Come on. Let's look at this as thinking Christians, people who understand the other side of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You see, God is filled with mercy. God is filled with grace. But we forget. And this is where we can't enable and sanction. This is where we can't sanction and enable other dysfunction in our brothers and sisters, especially if we love them. You see, God's holy. God's holy. And we are not. So therefore, we need a mediator. We need someone to redeem us, Jesus Christ. And when we stand in front of him, it's not our sin that God looks upon. He looks at Jesus, who was sinless. And Jesus stands in front of God on our behalf and says, she has repented. He has repented. And they've turned their life over to me. But you see, the reason why God's anger burned against Sodom and Gomorrah is not because it had sin. Don't miss this. This is huge. God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because it sanctioned sin. It said sin was okay. It justified it. It sanctioned it. And God can't stand it when a whole people and a whole community sanction that which he hates. And he hates sin because it separates us from him. It destroys us. That's why God hates it. He doesn't hate you personally, but he hates the results and the outcome of sin. And God couldn't stand it anymore. You see, they called that which was good evil, and they called that which was evil good. And God said, this is unredeemable. And God had to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. We as a country have been guilty of much of this in recent years. Sanctioning that which is sinful. Sanctioning that which is not healthy. That which is evil. Calling that which is evil good, and that which is good, we're calling it evil. And our country's in danger. No wonder God says in Chronicles that who does he say? My people. He's not talking about an unchurched world. He says, if my people will do what? Humble themselves. You see, it takes humility to own your sin. It takes humility. I have to put my arrogance and pride down before God and say, I've messed up here. And it takes humility to apologize to other people. Anytime in the Old Testament that anyone owned their sin, humbled themselves, often they would put on sackcloth and ashes. What is sackcloth and ashes, Pastor Charles? Pretty simple. It's just flat out humbling yourself publicly before God and before others. And it's saying, I've just been a foolish, foolish person. And I've deceitfully gone my way instead of God's way. I've engaged in behavior that was against God's will, and I repent of it. Every time when people did this, God's mercy, God's grace was shared and given. God's a merciful God. God's a loving God if his people will own their sin and repent.